Okay, it's been, I don't know, over an hour filtering, maybe 650 milliliters of solution. And I consolidated these, rinsed this, and this is our foils. We have this in the filter. We still have to filter this solution. There's not much in here, but it's something and it needs to be filtered. So we'll probably go ahead and switch out this filter paper and start over with a fresh filter. Now that we've rinsed this out, we'll just put that in there with our foils. We'll pour this off into an empty beaker. Don't want to overflow into our vacuum tube and destroy our pump. Done that before. Go ahead and put in a new filter paper. Make sure it seats well, and then we'll finish filtering. I don't expect this one will take nearly as long as the first because of the amount of solids in the first one. What we can do, however, while we're waiting is test our solution for silver. We clean out a beaker here. We'll test for silver in this small beaker with some hydrochloric acid. We'll just use a small amount. And that way, if we have a decent amount of silver in here, instead of using hydrochloric acid, we'll probably just go ahead and use salt. It's cheaper. And that is definitely got silver in it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Let me tilt this. Yeah, not sure if this helps to see the silver. But there is, in fact, silver in solution, quite a bit of it actually. See if we can't make this a little easier to see. Probably could just pour this back in there. Do the same thing. We'll dilute this with water to make it more transparent. Maybe the camera will be able to pick it up a little easier that way. Whew. How about now? Can you see that? Here we go. So, not bad for such a small amount of the solution. Quite a bit of silver in there. As we've learned from the last few times we've refined this particular material from the same vendor. So it's pretty good. It's kind of a really welcome bonus because we pay per weight on the gold fill. Nobody included the silver content. So if we end up with 15 or 20 grams of silver, is a half ounce of silver, adds quite a bit to the pot. So, okay, I'm gonna finish filtering this. I'll turn the camera back on when we're getting close to being done, and then we'll start our process of refining it with Aqua Regia. Okay, just about done. We've been, I don't know, a couple hours anyway, filtering. And while this is just buttoning up, it just has a little tiny bit of wash water in there, rinsing the sediment in the filter. We're going to add some table salt to the filtered solution here to see how much silver we may have in here. And I'm hoping it's pretty good. I added enough sodium to precipitate approximately 1 ounce of silver. We'll give that a minute to settle, and then we'll add a little more and see if we need to add additional. You can see the silver chloride settling on the bottom of the beaker. We'll let that settle out till tomorrow. Then we'll wash it, see how much we got there, approximately how much we got. I don't know if we're gonna try to dry and weigh that or not. I doubt it. Probably just put it in the jar with the rest. We'll be able to estimate roughly how much we got there. I think this is about done. These are gold foils, all washed and cleaned up. Looks nice. We're gonna swivel and rotate the camera over to the heat plate, so hang tight. Okay, here we go. I've transferred it over to the heat plate. We're gonna now add hydrochloric acid. I will add that to about, I don't know, 300 milliliters or so. We'll bring this up to about 300 milliliters. Hopefully. We'll go ahead and get this hot, and then we're going to add, very slowly add nitric acid in just small, very small increments. We'll get a reaction started. When that reaction stops, we'll add a few drops more, and we'll continue doing that until all of the gold foils are completely dissolved. The filter paper will dissolve within the aquaresia. It shouldn't be a problem. I think this is everybody's second favorite part, dissolving the gold. Bringing it back, of course, is probably everybody's favorite part. This should be plenty hot enough to start the reaction. We're going to add about 10 milliliters to start. And it's instantaneous. This is my preferred method of adding nitric acid. Um, Sometimes you see it's said you should put 3 parts hydrochloric, 1 part nitric. I don't think it's necessary, and the reaction is incredibly violent. And again, the result is exactly the same, but very well controlled. And the less you use, the more you're profit if you're profiting. Once this gets up to temp, you can turn the heat down to low. Just keep it warm. You don't have to keep it boiling. And as these fumes start to dissipate, we'll have to add more nitric acid to keep it going. As you can see, with the addition of the nitric acid, it gets quite violent again. I can't even imagine adding a 3-to-1 mixture, pouring 70 milliliters or more of nitric acid in there all at once. It would just, it would rise and probably overflow. We're just adding it in about 5 milliliter increments to keep the reaction moving. At this point, I've completely turned the burner off, and it's just holding some heat from where it was on before. But the reaction is most of what you see inside the beaker right now. The reaction from the acid. I can see it throwing the gold foils around as it eats away at them. There's some weird therapeutic calming from watching this whole process play out. I don't know why, but it's mesmerizing. You almost get addicted to the process of dissolving the gold and then bringing it back to life. We'll slow down the addition of nitric acid at this point until it stops reacting almost entirely, and then we'll add a few drops because we're starting to see the quantity of gold foils reduce. We don't want to end up with a large amount of excess nitric acid that we have to then denox afterwards. It's a waste of material, and it's kind of a pain. It can certainly complicate the precipitation phase. You can see the condensation dripping back into the beaker. It's just recirculating the nitric acid. Makes it last a bit longer. Solution's quite green. No matter how hard you try with the nitric dissolve beforehand, you can never get all of the base metal out until this process. And then once we're done with this, we'll refine it again, and maybe even a third time. So that was just a quick stannous chloride test. This stannous chloride is not something I bought. It's just something I made. Really simple and easy to make. Just get you some silver solder from the hardware store. It's mostly tin. I take mine to an anvil and I flatten it out with a good clean ball peen hammer to smash it paper thin, and then I put it in hydrochloric acid and boil it. Within 20 minutes or so, it's active, and it's good for a couple weeks. And I keep a little bit of weak AU solution or gold solution aside, just so I can test it from now, from every now and again to make sure it's good. And I said I don't buy stannous chloride anymore. I found that if I buy it online, sometimes by the time I get it, it's no good right out of the gate. So I started making my own. It's a slow process. Some of the links weren't fully dissolved. The inside base metal wasn't fully dissolved. The nitric acid had not yet penetrated that deep. That's why the solution is so green, and it's taking so long to dissolve the gold. It's just about done though. I don't see much down here floating up anymore. The pile is now dissipated. Yeah. I'll give it a few more minutes. Then we'll add a few drops of nitric acid just to make sure that the reaction is completed. And then we'll start the cooling process. Probably shut this camera off and precipitate this gold in the morning. Seems like a short time, but it's been about 9 hours in the making here. We may even have some silver bouncing around in there that will not dissolve in the aqua region because of the hydrochloric acid, and it may be why it's not completing the reaction here. So we may check for that before we add any more nitric acid. Okay, I think that's about it. The nitric acid is not really reacting to solution anymore. And, might have a couple of little pieces in there bouncing around, but I believe them to be probably silver. We're going to let this sit overnight anyway, and in the morning we'll bring it up to temp again, or just get it pretty warm, not necessarily boiling, and then we'll denox it and add some sulfuric acid to it to drop any lead. Then we're going to filter it and precipitate gold. I'm going to cut this off and turn it back on tomorrow.